statement called Donald McIntyre.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony which you will now give any before this court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Will you state and spell your name, please?
Donald McIntyre, McIntyre.
And how are you employed?
I am a corrections officer for the Sheriff's Department at Del Valley Complex.
How long have you been with the Travis County Sheriff's Office?
I've been with Travis County Sheriff's Department 3 years, 2 months.
And has all of that time been at the Del Valley Complex?
Yes, sir.
How many buildings are at the Del Valley Complex?
I have no idea. I only work in one, sir.
Has that been the entire time you've worked for Travis County?
Yes, sir.
And that's all been in the health services building?
Yes, sir.
And what is your duty within the health services building?
Security and safety of the inmates.
And does that involve walking around? Or what do you do?
We do HSB. We do, health services building, we do 30-minute visuals. There's a unit that we do 15-minute visuals in the hallway. But for the unit I was in, we normally do 30-minute visuals.
Okay. And you said the unit you were in, specifically on August 6, 2013, what portion of the health services building were you working?
I was working in Baker unit.
And describe for us what Baker unit looks like and how many people are there, or things such as that.
Baker unit holds up to 56 inmates, I believe. It's a 4-man cells, 2 stories. The post desk is at one end, and the day room is in the open. We have 2 sets of stairs going up to the upper tier.
And at certain times during the day, do all inmates assigned to that unit have access to the day room?
Yes, sir.
And are the cells the doors all left open?
Yes, sir.
So inmates assigned to that unit are free to come and go in and out of cells?
Yes, sir.
In and out of the day room?
Yes, sir.
Up and down the stairs?
Yes, sir.
And on August 6, 2013, was inmate Brandon Montgomery Daniel assigned to the Baker unit of the health services building?
Yes, he was, sir.
And what had occurred that day in reference to Brandon Montgomery Daniel?
As I stated in my report, we heard a commotion in the day room. Both myself and Officer Parrish were working in post. We looked into the day room, and amongst the commotion, we could see Brandon Daniels take a bow. And we realized that the newscast was on, and the inmates in the day room were watching the newscast for the trial that was going on.
He'd been transported to a court hearing that particular day, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so there's a news story about his case and him on the news.
Yes, sir.
And what drew your attention first to what you heard down in the day room?
Well, what drew us our attention was it seemed to get a little quiet, and then there was some applause or some type of a commotion in the day room where we both sat down. We ended up watching the day room to see what was going on, and that's when we noticed or saw inmates take a bow in the day room.
And after you saw that, what happened next?
Well, I couldn't believe what I saw, so I went to the computer to call up the video to double check what we saw.
Y'all have a surveillance video that you can pretty much pull up in real time?
Yes, sir.
And was what you saw in that video consistent with what you witnessed on April 6, 2013?
Yes, sir.
And is the Brandon Daniel you saw take a bow on August 6, 2013 in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Can you identify where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's sitting behind that monitor right there. I believe he has a gray suit on.
pass witnesses on.
Good afternoon, Officer McIntyre. Officer McIntyre, I think you said that you heard a applause and commotion, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you yourself wasn't able to make out exactly what was the cause of commotion about. You just noticed it and looked up.
Yes, sir. At that time, yes.
Okay, and it just so happened that the television was showing the newscast, correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Daniel was featured in that newscast, correct?
That is correct.
You saw him get up and take a bow, and the first time you noticed him or that the news was playing was when you heard the commotion and the applause, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you stated that there was another officer there with you, an Officer Parrish, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll pass it, Mr. Ryan.
I've done it, sir.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Next witness.
Statement called Timothy Parrish, Your Honor.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the testimony which you will now give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
Proceed.
Will you state and spell your name, please?
Yes, Timothy Parrish, Timothy, Parrish, Parrish.
And how are you employed?
I'm a senior correctional officer with the Travis County Sheriff's Office.
And I want to direct your attention back to August 6, 2013. At that time, were you assigned to the Health Services Baker Unit?
I was.
And on that particular day, were you working with deputy or officer?
Officer Don McIntyre.
Officer McIntyre? Were you working with him on that day?
Yes, I was.
And at approximately 9:05 that evening, was your attention directed to the day room of the Baker Unit of the Health Services Building?
Yes, it was.
Specifically, what caught your attention about that time?
Basically, all the inmates started gathering around the television at the time. They were airing the evening news, which was one of Brandon Daniels' pretrial appearances, and a bunch of inmates started gathering around the television.
So was it the silence that first drew your attention?
Yeah, the silence for sure.
Is that unusual in the day room?
For a day to go quickly quiet like that, yes, it is.
And you said that Mr. Daniel had a court appearance on that particular day. What happens when someone has a court appearance?
Usually when it's aired on television, people kind of gather around and start watching the TV, just to either see themselves on TV or, otherwise.
And I kind of meant more logistically, like what time are you gathered up to be taken from Del Valley to court if you have a court setting?
Usually they take you about 7 o'clock in the morning and you return just whenever they're done with proceedings. In this case, I think he was done pretty early. I think he got back at around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But it wasn't until 9 o'clock that evening that the news came on.
So there was some passage of 4 or 5 hours between when he got back to the Health Services Building and when this newscast appeared.
Yes, that's correct.
And following that silence, what did you observe in the day room?
Following the silence, they began watching, and about a couple minutes after the news completed, they began applauding for Emmett Daniel. Shortly after the applaud and recognition, Emmett Daniel took a bow in front of everybody.
And after Mr. Daniel took a bow, what happened next?
One of the inmates that was in the day room screamed out, "Fuck the police," and Emmett Daniel acknowledged him by raising his fist in the air.
Kind of just similar to what you just demonstrated?
Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, it wasn't Mr. Daniel who yelled?
No, it was not Mr. Daniel who yelled that. It was another inmate who was unidentified.
There was a number of people at that point,
Yes, there was.
but it was Mr. Daniel who acknowledged it.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Sheriff's writing was been marked as State's Exhibit 97. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And is that your handwriting that appears on that disc?
Yes, that's my handwriting.
And does that fairly and accurately depict the events of August 6, 2013?
Yes, sir, it does.
At this time, the state would move to Exhibit State Exhibit 97.
No objection, Your Honor.
Permission to publish the jury, Your Honor.
You may.
Press the plus button on the top left, the little magnifying glass, if you actually get a bigger view.
This thing?
Yeah. That's- there you go.
Sir, if I could have you stand down towards the screen. First of all, where are the TVs in this day room?
There's one TV right here. The certain TV that they're watching is actually located. You can't really see it. It's behind the stairwell right here.
So kind of in the same location on the other side?
Yes.
And as I play this, will you point out where Brandon Daniel is located when he takes them out?
And Daniel's right here playing cards, and you can see him standing right there. Right now, we're being plotting. That's where he takes it down right there.
So if you could point out when he pumps his fist.
So it's coming up here about 5 seconds. But right now is when something notices it, and you'll see him shakes his once in the air. Right about there.
Right there with his left hand.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And is the Brandon Daniel who you observed on that particular day take those actions in the courtroom today?
Sorry.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir, yes.
Can you identify where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
Sitting right over there, wearing the gray suit.
I have no further questions.
Good afternoon. Officer Parrish. We'll wait till some lights are on. Now, I know you and I have talked on the phone before, and also earlier today, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to be fair, you were here under the state subpoena, but I didn't know that they subpoenaed you, and I subpoenaed you myself. Is that not right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, fortunately, you get testified today, you don't have to come tomorrow.
Okay.
In any event, with regard to this event that happened and Val and the fist bump that you witnessed, can you describe the other inmates' demeanors? In other words, you said they were applauding, but Brandon Daniel wasn't applauding.
Yeah, Brandon Daniel was actually silent the entire time. He didn't say anything. He just took a bowing acknowledgement of the applause.
Would you say that the other inmates egged him on?
I would say, yeah, they did.
They say, "Come on in," and whatever they were saying just to encourage him. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And with regard, as Mr. Bishop pointed out to you, it wasn't him that said "fuck the police," right?
No, sir.
And it was a real quick kind of raising the ears, what you saw?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the incident you would describe, it wasn't instigated by or orchestrated by Brandon Daniel in any way?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay. Now, how long have you been with in HSB?
I've been in HSB for a total of 5 years now. I've been on the sheriff's office for 7.
So you've been in HSB the entire time with Mr. Daniel?
Yes, sir, I have.
And during that time that he's been there, which is close to 2 years, you've had an opportunity to supervise him as an inmate and such?
Yes, sir.
And in all that time that you supervised him as an inmate, has he ever given you a liquor trouble?
No, me personally, no, sir.
Okay. Has he always been compliant and obeys your commands?
Yeah. With regards to me, that he's always been quite respectful.
Okay. You've ever noticed him, he's never gotten into altercations with other inmates that require you to write him up or do anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. So, in terms of an inmate, at least for you, as far as your knowledge, he's been a model inmate for you.
I wouldn't say model inmate just because some of the other items that you receive from other officers. But a respectful inmate, yes.
Okay. And you yourself have never had any issues with him?
No, I have not, no.
That's what it's
I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
In your honor, I have subpoenaed Officer Parrish, but I would recently subpoenaed him. It's okay.
All right. That's fine.
Thank you.
State called Linda Diaz.
She's not.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you will now give to me is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Now, would you state your name and say your last name for the record?
My name is Linda Diaz, D-I-A-Z.
Ms. Diaz, where do you live?
I live in San Angelo, Texas,
Who do you live in San Angelo with?
with my husband and my 2 children.
And your husband's here with you today?
Yes, sir, he is.
You also here with your family?
Yes, sir. I'm here with my parents and my other brothers.
Who's your family?
My oldest brother, Johnny, he's married to Gloria. And then my youngest brother, Joe. And I'm here with both of my parents. I'm here with my husband. And then I have 2 adult children that are back home.
Ms. Diaz, how are you related to Heine Padron?
He was one of my younger brothers.
You and Heine grew up in the same household.
Yes, sir.
You recall when Heine went off to fight for his country?
Yes, sir, I do.
How old was Heine at that time?
He enlisted when he was 17 years old. He was still in high school. Of course, he had to wait until he graduated. He graduated that summer, maybe end of May. And then that summer, right after his birthday in July, is when he left with the Marine Corps for boot camp.
Ms. Diaz, you were telling me out in the hallway that y'all had sat down and figured out how long Jaime had been involved in public service?
Yes, sir. My brother died when he was 4 years old. 40. He joined the Marine Corps when he was 17 and still in high school. Right out of the Marine Corps, he came home and worked for my dad in his dairy for a very short time before he went to work for the Eaton Detention Center as a corrections officer. He moved on from being a corrections officer to working for the San Angelo Police Department. He worked there approximately 14 years before he came to Austin to work for the Airport Police, and then transferred to APD. He gave over 21 years, more than half of his lifetime, to serving the public, serving and protecting the public, his community, and his country.
That's what your brother chose to do, though, didn't he?
I'm sorry.
That's what he chose to do. That's the life he
He
wanted to
chose
live.
to do that. He was a very honorable man of integrity and commitment, not only to his family, but to his country and his community. And he loved his job. He loved serving in the military. And when he joined the police department, he loved it. He had a passion for it. As a kid, we've known that he's always had it in him, because as a kid, when we're talking to him, his eyes were always scanning. And I see that in the other police officers. When you're talking to them, they're not just looking at you, their eyes are scanning, and my brother has always had that. As long as I can remember as a little kid, he's always had that.
Yes, you were telling me a story about when Jaime first became a police officer. His first active bravery as a police officer.
He was a rookie, maybe in his first year of being a police officer with San Angelo Police Department. He was near, the call came in, it was a house fire. He went to that call, and he was aware there were 2 children in that house. And the parents, the father and the stepmother of the children made it out, but the children were still in. Him and another rookie officer went in to try to save these 2 kids, and they weren't able to. The house was highly engulfed, and he barely got out, and his buddy, he realized, was still in there. So Jaime went back in, he broke a window, went back in, and helped his buddy out. His buddy says, he saved his life.
Jaime twice ran into a burning house trying to save people.
Yes.
Ma'am, I want you to tell me a little bit about his family. He has 2 daughters, is that right?
He has 2 little girls, and they were 6 and 10 years old. And even though my brother was divorced, he was a very dedicated father. He would take them to school, he would read to them at school, and he would read to other classes because he wanted to be around his kids. He wanted to be aware of who was around his children.
We talked about Jaime being a police officer in San Angelo. Did he also continue his education while he was doing this and having his family?
He went to college while working a full-time job, and sometimes working a full-time job with SAPD and doing security work wherever he could. And he graduated with honors. He graduated with a degree in psychology and criminal justice. And he did very well in school. And he still found time to go and visit my parents and visit my other brothers, and never forgot birthdays.
Was he involved with his nieces and nephews also?
And he was, and he left a great impact on all of our children. My nephew, my oldest brother's son, was following in his footsteps, and he joined the Marine Corps, and Hyman knew what he wanted to do, and Hyman and him were very close, and they talked about little Johnny joining the Marine Corps, and he knew that he was already enlisted and when he was going to ship off, and he was a very good example to all of our children, and I'm sure, his daughters are missing out on a tremendous daddy that they could have had. He was very caring, he was very loving, and my parents.
Was Hyman close to your father?
Yes, sir. And he was very close to my dad and talked to him 2 or 3 times a week, even if it was just for a second. My dad, and you're not going to be very well with this. And they're both older in age and disabled, and that's all I think about.
Ms. Diaz, I know your family has been here for this trial. Has it been difficult for y'all to sit here and hear this testimony in this trial?
It's horrifying. It's almost unbearable. It's not fair. I see their pain every day, and in the middle of the night, when everybody's gone and all the distractions are gone, it's horrible. No one should have to go through that. No parent should have to go through this. These little girls shouldn't have to go through their life without their father. He was very nurturing. In Spanish, we call it cariñoso. That was my brother. That's the word I can describe him as, cariñoso. It's that love and the nurturing that only a father can give them.
No questions.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Dave Rush, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to recess you for the day. Please report back at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. You are in recess.
There's